Well, we're going to go over the 6 dorsal compartments, but in the first dorsal compartment, we have APL and EPD. Well, what does that stand for? APL, abductor pollicis longus. Okay, so that's your abductor. And you have extensor pollicis brevis, EPB. Now, what tends to happen is there's a couple anatomic variations as that first dorsal compartment crosses over that CMC or over that distal radius. What you might see is them sharing a sheath, or they might have 2 completely separate spaces. Now, knowing that, typically the APL or the abductor pollicis longus is about twice the size of the EPL or EPB. And what you're looking for is thickening of that space. And there's no specific cutoff to how thick it is. This is going to be one of those things that you're going to have to get really good at. And the other thing is if they have a left hand that's symptomatic and a right hand that's asymptomatic, it's always worth looking at both sides, especially if you're unsure. Now, what does Tenosynovitis mean? Well, that means as the tendon is coming through, there's a sheath around it. If that sheath becomes irritated and filled with synovium, it'll create fluid around the tendon, and that is tenosynovitis. Okay, so that's the synovium being inflamed around it within that tendinous sheath. Now, before we go too far, same thing applies that we talked about with the volar wrist in the carpal tunnel. Is one good way to get a better image is why you have the patient in this position here. Is this okay? Okay. You could take a bolster or like a gel bottle or anything here, and you could just prop that hand up a little bit into flexion. So now you're going to get into wrist flexion, and you can see the wrist right through here. What we're feeling for, and I think this is what they call the lighthouse of the wrist, right? Colin, you've heard that before, the lighthouse of the wrist. Mm-hmm. Lighthouse of the wrist is on the distal radius. It's called Lister's tubercle. And if you followed us on social media, if you've ever looked at any one of our LinkedIn posts, I go over this a lot because I think it's super important to understand this landmark. So if you go to the distal radius and find this little bump right here, that's going to be Lister's tubercle. That's going to be our lighthouse of the wrist. Now I'm going to start this in short axis. And what I'm looking for is I'm looking for that protuberance that kind of sticks up. Now for him, he's got an interesting, now you've broken this wrist. He's broken this wrist twice. FYI, he's played professional football. What positions?
Receiver and defensive back.
Receiver. So you need your hands. Yeah. So they got injured. Completely injured. So we may find some abnormalities in here. So his Lister's tubercle is this bump right in here. Get a better view of it. His happens to be slightly, I don't want to say irregular, but I want to say that his is slightly changed to what I would typically see. Now, what we're looking at is this space right in here. That's Lister's tubercle. How about your other wrist real quick? Is that one messed up too? We'll find out. You broke this one too. And well, I'll be honest, this one looks a lot easier to see. Okay, so that's going to what your typical Lister's tubercle is going to look just like that. So let's go to this one though, because here's the thing is people are going to walk into your clinic. They're not going to be normal. That's why they're getting skinny. And so we're going to do the best that we can looking at this space right in here. So if anybody can see my scan, you can see that I'm on that dorsal side. I'm on the distal radius until I get this little bump right on top. Now that bump represents a space that separates dorsal compartment 2 and 3. Okay, so 2 and 3 are going to be the ones that are separated here. All right, so once I've located Lister's tubercle, I know I can go to that radial side. We're going to sneak past this one right here, okay? And we're going to go right over until we see this space right here. What we have is this larger APL and EPV. So he does not have synovium around it. It does not look overly thickened. You can have them move their thumb, or you can passively move their thumb to see these move. And out of the 6 dorsal compartments, I typically look at number 1 and number 6 in 2 planes, unless I see something abnormal in the other 4. Now, as I'm going through here, again, locating Lister's tubercle, passing over dorsal compartment 2, and sliding over the wrist a little bit until you see this space right here. So